Today I'm going to show you how to build this ladder plant stand. Why not build it for twice the price that you could buy it on Amazon for? I did it because it could be done fast, easy, and well, my wife wanted a 15th ladder plant stand. This is one of those projects that anyone can complete for very little money and have a high quality professional looking finish. All I needed for this project was one 10-foot 2x4, one 6-foot 1x6, and I had some extra plywood scraps laying around that I used to anchor my shelves to. First thing I had to do was take my 2x4s and cut them to length. This will depend on what angle you want your ladder hanging off the wall and how tall you want it to be. You can search online for triangle calculator, and that tool will help you figure out exactly what angle you need to cut your 2x4 ends to. If you can't find it and need help, feel free to shoot me a DM on Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, whatever, and I'd be more than happy to help walk you through and help you calculate your angles. Once that's done, I cut my 3 shelves to 2 foot wide. And then I took that same angle I used for the 2x4s and I cut strips to the 3.5 inches wide of the 2x4 that I will be using for the anchors for my shelves. Once all of that is complete, I made sure that my shelf supports were evenly spaced along the 2x4 and then fastened them with just some brad nails. Once I got one side done, I just laid the other 2x4 on top of it, marked out exactly where the supports were going to go, flipped it over, and then nailed in the supports for that one as well. Next step is to go ahead and assemble the shelves onto the ladder. This can be a little bit tricky, so I ended up laying it on its side and then fastening it again with brad nails to the supports on either side. Now, if you couldn't tell, I'm using some old 2x4s I had laying around, and I had gotten some oil on my boots from changing my truck oil, and then proceeded to walk all over these 2x4s while they were laying on the garage floor. So I had a little bit of extra work to do sanding these down. Now, if you're using off-the-shelf 2x4s, you might have a little bit of sanding prep work to do, but theoretically you shouldn't need much. Again, because mine were oil stained, I had quite a bit of sanding I needed to do to get rid of those oil stains. For this, I just used 80 grit sandpaper and then finished it with 120. You can go higher grit if you want. Just know that the lower grit you finish your piece with, the darker the stain will be. I'm going to go ahead and use a black stain. So it didn't matter much to me how dark the stain ultimately came out to be, because to me, the darker black, the better. So once your sanding's complete, I went ahead and mixed up my stain. Now it's important to note that with stain, you don't want to shake it like you do a paint can. You got to stir it gently with a stir stick, and then once that's complete, you can go ahead and stain your piece. So for this, I just used a cheap little stain brush, brushed on my stain, and then used a stain rag to wipe away any excess. Word of advice, don't do what I did and stain in the sun. The stain dries very, very quickly and doesn't give you enough time to end up wiping that stain off. Once you stained your entire piece, it's up to you whether you want to finish it with polyurethane, lacquer, whatever you want to use. I used, and I didn't film it, but I used polyurethane because it's an oil base and will repel water from excess watering of the plants, whatever might leak onto it. Once your polyurethane is dry, you can set your plant stand up and decorate it however you wish. Again, I think this project is awesome. I think all in, if you were buying all the materials off the shelf, might run you $25 or so. And this one really only took me about an hour and a half to complete, not including the drying time for the stain and the polyurethane. But for about $30 and a couple hours worth of work, I think the results turned out awesome. Here you go. And here's the finished product. And just a reminder that I am a relatively new channel, so I'm trying to get my start here on YouTube. If you have any comments or suggestions, please let me know down in the comments. And I do post videos every Tuesday and Friday, so come back on Friday to see what I've got in store next. Thanks.